What's up, guys? Welcome to the first edition in a while of the Lubbock or Leave It podcast. As I posted on the board, I will be out of town starting this weekend for the next week and a half, 2 weeks. So wanted to get on and answer some recruiting questions. We're in the meanwhile, Matt Clare, Julio Gonzalez, who we hired, they're gonna cover the junior day this Saturday. It's gonna be a massive junior day, tons of recruits. The list is posted at the top, pinned, on Red Raider Sports. But yeah, we got a lot of good questions. So let's get into it. But first, if you're ever in an injury, personal injury, you don't have to go at it alone. Be Biggs and Greenslade Law, bglawtexas.com. They'll take care of you. They have a team of experienced personal injury lawyers and car accident lawyers in Tyler. They are also in East Texas, in Waco, in the Metroplex. So you can hit them up. You can be confident your rights will be protected and your case will reach the best possible outcome. You all know him as John Greenslade on Red Raider Sports. And like I said, bglawtexas.com. I will post the info below the player. So let's start with the questions from Marching Band Mark. Over under on number of commits in the week after junior day, and he sets the line at 4.5, which is aggressive in my opinion, because look, last year, did I just disappear on the video? Oh, I'm back now. That's weird. Wow. Okay, that was weird. So last year, Tech had a ton of recruits commits after the junior day in January. It was McGuire's first, and there was a lot of hype and momentum. That was a January, junior day, and I don't have the exact number, but I remember TJ West, LJ Johnson. A couple weeks later, it was Brendan Jordan, Chapman Lewis committed on that visit. Could have been one or two more, but it was a big run. But 4.5, you just look around kind of the conference, and Texas and Oklahoma did their junior days back in January. Baylor did one. I know Baylor got a commitment from Jackson. He's a linebacker from Lumberton, Texas, after their junior day, and then I think they got another offensive lineman. But it's just these recruits. You have some that want to commit early, and we've seen that with Texas Tech's class. Right now, it has 7 commitments, but they're also recruiting, some of these higher end guys like a Micah Thomas or Micah Hudson, like a Logan Thomas, Braylon Conley, Selman Bridges, Aaron Flowers, Keondae Henry, Nigel Smith. They're just some like all those guys I just listed are 4 stars or better. These guys aren't in a rush, I don't think, to make a decision. I think it would be a pleasant surprise. But they still have visits to take. They have official visits this summer. They have more spring visits. That said, I would set the line at like 1.5, maybe 2.5. Tech will get commits this weekend. They're going to be 5 of the 7 commitments are going to be at the junior day. Will Hammond is, he's been talking to these kids. He's recruiting. I'm sure the other commits have been too. Holden Hendricks on social media, and the coaches. And there's just a lot of good vibes and energy from the football program. So, they're going to get a couple kids. I won't set the line at 4.5, though. I think I'll take the under on that. That's just my opinion, and it'd be great if I was wrong. I would say the other kind of factor into that thinking is it's going to be a smaller class. I expect the number to be 18 high school recruits right now. I listened to, there was a McGuire podcast with Dave Campbell's Texas Football, I believe it was today. where he mentioned that about half of the scholarships are freshmen or redshirt freshmen. So this team is young. Those guys are going to have to grow up. And, so all that really means is, are you going to take another massive class? I mean, probably not. 18 is a good number, though. That's above the number of high school recruits you signed before McGuire got here for sure. But 18, and then you have some numbers to play with in the transfer portal, and we've all seen how important the portal is, especially when you look forward to next year and both defensive tackles, both corners, your quarterback. You're going to have some seniors that you lose some super seniors off of this team. So there might be a need for some portal guys. Next question from M John 28. Predictions for whether or not the final ranking for the 2024 recruiting class finishes over under 20.5. It's an interesting question. Again, I hate to be a party pooper, but I'm going to take the under, and that all ties into what I just said earlier with the smaller class. Rivals, if you didn't know, takes the top 20 commits, uh, and that then gives you kind of a total score there. So if Tech does sign 18 high school kids, which I expect, and this could change. I mean, you get some guys transfer, whatever, and that number could be 19, 20, 21 before we know it. But right now, it's expected to be a smaller class. All that said, um, 18 commits, and it's going to be a really good class. They're going after some top talent. They're going to get some of these guys. They already have. You look across. I posted earlier this week the rankings from all the different sites, and Will Hammond's a 4-star here. Johan Cardenas is a top 75 kid in the country on 3. Holden Hendricks was a former 4-star. He could get it back. We'll have to see. Like Chandler Myers is right on the brink of 4-star status. LJ Johnson is a 4-star on another site. So like they're getting really good recruits already, and they're going to add to it. Just look at the junior day list and the type of kids that they're recruiting that are reciprocating that interest. Um, the line was over under the 20.5 ranked class. I'll less than that, but I still comfortably project them to be in the top 30, top 25 wouldn't shock me either. All that takes is Micah Hudson and, some good recruits around him. And a 5-star will usually bump you up because you get all those bonus points that are attached with the 5-star. It's basically counting as an extra recruit or two. So that could make up for the smaller number. A good question. Next question from Texas Steelers, and that's Texas with a 3 instead of an E. I'm sure it's been said, how many spots is the staff looking to fill for this 2024 class? I know it's been said it'll be smaller compared to 23, and yeah, just 18. Like I've talked about, I think that's the number right now. It's subject to change, but that's what it is right now. Question from PJ Worthen. Besides Peyton Morgan, who I think is probably the most likely to commit, who else should we keep an eye on for a possible commitment in the near future? So let's just pull up the junior day list. Tons of guys that really want. Just kind of going down it. I wouldn't be, I mean, a guy like Kavion Broussard, offensive line, I mean, I wouldn't be totally shocked. It's his first visit to Tech. I know they like him a lot, but they're also recruiting Casey Poe, Ellis Davis. Neither of those guys will be at junior day, unfortunately, but Broussard is kind of, could be right there with those guys. He's got offers from other than Tech, he's got TCU, Missouri, Miami, Mississippi State, Florida State, Tulane. He's a guy out of Zachary, Louisiana, so making quite the trip to get to Lubbock. I wouldn't say he hasn't told me he's on commitment watch or anything like that. It wouldn't surprise me the way the staff recruits. Um, some other guys that are, in town, Travis Jackson, defensive end. We got me and Matt Clare and I got to see him at the next level camp back in January, and he had really good things to say about Tech. He's a guy out of East Texas, Tyler Legacy. So, Tech's had success there before, and he's a four-star, recently upgraded. So he'd be a good get on the edge. And then I would say, all those guys in the secondary. You got, a ton of highly ranked guys, but also, Isaiah Collins. He's a corner out of Huntsville, 6'3", 175. Tech was his first offer. He'll be on campus, and then Oliver Miles is another corner that the coaches offered yesterday from El Campo, Texas. He's just a really athletic 6'2", 170, can dunk a basketball. Just track guy, just a really athletic guy. He plays quarterback for his high school, projects in the secondary. And then some of the safeties like Chris Rakoma, um, he out of Arlington Bowie. He has 15 offers. His older brother, Junior Sunday, I hope I'm saying that correctly, played at Texas Tech about 10, 12 years ago. Um, and Tech did just sign Kelby Valson out of the same high school. I think he could be, kind of on commit watch, and kind of the same thing with Akari Johnson. He's another safety slash defensive back out of Pleasant Grove, making the long trip from East Texas all the way to West Texas this weekend. I would say those are some of the guys. Receivers wouldn't surprise me. I just think some of those guys are on the verge of blowing up. Like I don't see Micah Hudson making a decision this early. Um, KJ Daniels, they would love to get him out of Louisiana. Oklahoma just offered him this week. So, I think I could see him being patient and trying to go visit the Sooners too. Um, and then a guy like Bethel Roman is another receiver who's right on the verge of blowing up. High three-star on Rivals. I believe he's a four-star on some other sites, but he's picked up like Arizona State, Baylor, Cal, Purdue, and hearing some other schools could be really close. But another guy that the coaches would love to add at receiver. So I would say those are just some of the names that I'm watching. The next question from Trader Raider: how's recruiting going so far? I think it's going great. Tech has 7 commits. They have their quarterback, who's an absolute stud, Will Hammond, who's getting offers every day and telling every other coach to screw off when they want him to go visit their campus. He's locked in with Zach Kitley, Kirk Bryant, and these coaches. So just a really good job recruiting him and keeping him locked in into being a Red Raider. And then just the rest of the class, they've got a running back, 2 receivers, 2 O linemen. They got a corner. Balanced class so far, and they're doing really good work. And I think the class is ranked right outside the top 10, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but um, they, you know they did a great job when they got here a year and a half ago. Did a great job last cycle, and doing it again into 2024. Next question from Fight Raiders Fight. Who are the high priority targets for the staff at each position? So at running back, he's visiting this weekend out of Lufkin, Kedron Young. Not really sure how to say his first name, but Rivals 250. Tech was on him early. He's now blown up. Texas is his most recent offer, I believe. Notre Dame, Oklahoma State. But they would take two. They would take him. They have Johan Cardenas already committed from St. Thomas out of Houston, and it's an important visit. I think Young has shown a lot of interest in the Red Raiders, and uh, you know, his recent offers would lead me to think that he stays patient and takes some more visits, but we'll see. Um, at receiver, you almost have all of your top guys coming in this weekend. Um, I mentioned him earlier, KJ Daniels out of Louisiana, just a burner, uh, a slot guy. And like I said earlier, Oklahoma just offered him. So that's Emmett Jones trying to get in there and steal, some of what you got going on. Um, they've got Micah Hudson, obviously, one of the top targets for every school in the country. And with Micah, uh, it just depends where you look. Some will say Texas, some will say Ohio State, some will say A&M. You look at some certain websites, and they're gonna be like, "There's no way that Micah Hudson ends up at Tech," and they're kind of downplaying that idea. I'm not doing that at all. There's a confidence. Um, that Tech is right there in the battle. I believe that to be true. He's visiting this weekend. His dad, Desmond Royal, played defensive line at Tech in the late 80s, early 90s. And, I just think it's one of those situations where Tech can build their class around Micah. And I think that Will Hammond and has been recruiting Micah a lot. I think that Micah is the type of guy who wants that opportunity to go be the star of the class, and which is possible. At Texas Tech, he could, he'd be the guy. That's would be Tech's first ever high school 5-star, I believe, recruit. So not giving up on that at all on that idea, but uh, I don't see an early decision. I expect him to take his visits, and Georgia just offered him two. I don't know if they're really a factor. I mean, they're by far the best college football team in the country, but I think gun to my head, I think Texas, A&M, or Tech, Ohio State is right in that group too. But I would say those are kind of the four leaders for Micah. Also at receiver, Ashton Bethel Roman. I mentioned him earlier. He's out of Ridgepoint, Missouri City, in the Houston area, and he actually he visited. He camped with the Red Raiders last summer. He visited again for the Oklahoma win at the end of the year, and he was one of the recruits who got to go to bowl practices. Tech was playing in the Texas Bowl, not too far from Ashton, and while he wasn't allowed to have interaction, I don't believe with the coaches because it was a dead period, he was able to go check things out, see how practice was run, and at the time, Emmett Jones was still the receivers coach, and I know they were pretty close, but um, he Ashton had a lot of good things to say about Tech. And then Hyundai Henry also visiting this weekend, and a lot of people have asked me, wasn't he a silent commit? And yeah, I mean, I think he was. That was months ago, over the summer even. Since then, there's been a lot of change. Emmett Jones left. Juice Johnson is in. I still think they would love to add him. He's out of Lake Dallas, receiver, and he's all of 6'2", 6'3", and he runs the 400 track guy. He's really athletic, downfield type of threat. So recently upgraded to a Rivals 250 prospect. And yeah, I mean, I think he likes Tech a lot. We'll see. We'll see who else comes off after him. One other name that I did not mention. Let me pull it up real quick because I can't think of him off the top of my head. Let's see. He's not visiting this weekend, but I know they like him at receiver. Slot receiver. Pulling up. Jacoby Williams out of Beckville, Texas. He's listed as a running back on Rivals, 5'10", 158. This guy can fly. And I know they like him as a slot guy. And he's told me he plans to visit. Won't be coming in this weekend, though, but he's another name to, just file away and keep an eye on in the future. With offensive line, I mentioned Kavion Broussard earlier. Casey Poe, obviously, Lindale, Texas. Everyone knows he's probably the top O line on the board. And then Ellis Davis out of Prosper is a tackle. He's 6'7", 6'8". He's originally from California, I believe, but moved to DFW about a year, 2 years ago. And he visited for 2 games last year. He also won't be on campus this weekend, but will make it for a spring practice. He was invited and planned to go this weekend. It's not going to end up working out. On the defensive line, a couple of guys I want to mention. First is Joseph Jonah Ajonye from Oak Ridge, Conroe, 4-star, and I feel comfortable saying he's the top D lineman on the board. Uh, they love this guy. And he won't be there this weekend. I believe he's going to be at Oklahoma, but he has an official visit set up with Tech the weekend of June 9th. I believe he's the only, so far the only recruit who has their official set up, that's been announced kind of publicly. Um, and everyone is after him. I think Texas, A&M, he's picking up new offers daily. So it's going to be tough, but another guy that, Coach Fitch, he's a really good recruiter and he develops really strong relationships with these defensive linemen. I think, he could be the next one that, decides to go play for Fitch, but we'll see. That's one to keep an eye on. And then Luke Webb, he is visiting this weekend, doesn't have an offer yet out of Deer Park. He doesn't have an offer from Tech. He has Houston, Oklahoma State, Arkansas State, and Texas State, 6'4", 260. Uh, like I said, visiting this weekend, and so he's one to keep an eye on for a possible offer. There's a ton of edge guys that are will be on campus this weekend that are high priority targets. Starting with Logan Thomas out of Katy Paytow High School, ranked as the number 162 recruit in the country. And this won't be his first visit at all. He visited last January. He visited for the win over West Virginia in October. And he's another guy who's just blown up, but he would fit in kind of that outside linebacker position. And like I said, Georgia's offered him, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Texas, Texas A&M, USC. So that's just the type of competition, but he'll be on campus, so the coaches will have their chance. Travis Jackson, I mentioned earlier, um, another guy the coaches were in early on from Tyler Legacy. Like I said, he's got 10 offers to date. Some of his most recent ones, Kansas State, Missouri, Oklahoma State, Houston, and then Tech and a bunch of group of 5 offers. Charles Anderson Jr., him and Edward Smith, both out of Glenda Dawson in Pearland, Texas. Um, they Smith won't be visiting this weekend. Anderson Jr. will be. They're both, really long, athletic prospects. Smith is 6'6", Anderson's 6'7". This kind of bookend edge rushers. Anderson's, an interesting. He plays basketball. Tech was his first offer. He visited for the win over Houston in week 2 in September, and recently has picked up California, Kansas State, Nebraska, and some group of 5 schools. And Edward Smith has a little lengthier offer list. He won't be on campus this weekend, but those are just 4 guys I mentioned who are fit that edge mold. Um, corners, I mean, all four that are going to be visiting this weekend are, I would say, are priority targets. Selman Bridges, same high school as Micah Hudson. He's a Rivals 250, and 6'2", 6'3", just really athletic and fast. Braylon Conley, 4-star, Isaiah Collins, and Oliver Miles. I mentioned earlier, as I'd have them on kind of commit watch. They don't have the kind of offers that some of these other guys do, but both really long and athletic prospects, which is what the staff is looking for. And if you could get one or two of those corners to go along with LJ Johnson, who's going to play corner, that's a really good little group. For that position, and much needed with Malik Dunlap and Rayshad Williams both entering their super senior year. At safety, there's tons of them coming this weekend. Chris Racoma, I mentioned earlier. Aaron Flowers, Matt Clare wrote an article about him this week. Go check it out. It's pinned at the top. And if it's not, go to the homepage, RaiderSports.com. You'll find it there. Aaron Flowers out of Forney. He, Tech is way up there for him. He says right in Matt's article that Tech's in his top three. If I had to guess, I would say Oklahoma and Baylor are probably the other two, but he didn't tell me that. But Tech has a really good shot at Flowers, and then Peyton Morgan, who I interviewed last week or 2 weeks ago, out of Pflugerville Weiss. Just an exceptional athlete, and a guy who just he visited for last year's junior day, and now he'll be back, and he's just all about his Red Raiders, calling hyping him up on social media and doing all those things. So I would say those three safeties, and then Akari Johnson. I mentioned him earlier too, out of East Texas. He's another guy, kind of high on that safety board. So I hope I didn't miss any positions. But yeah, I mean, those are kind of the top targets. Will they take a tight end? I'm not sure. Uh, they got a couple interesting ones. Julian Thomas Roberts out of Richardson Pierce will be on campus this weekend. They've already offered him. And then Trey Jackson from South Oak Cliff. He's a 6'6", 210-pound. Tech's recruiting him as a tight end. Coach Cochran plays receiver at South Oak Cliff. Just a really, long, athletic, pass catching type that they'd want to add weight to, and then move him towards tight end. So I believe that's it for 24. I just rattled off a bunch of names. I'm sure there's a couple of guys who won't be visiting this weekend that I might have missed, but you've got all those guys. You've got all that list of 2025 targets that are visiting this weekend. Go check it out again. The visitors list is pinned. Just you can click on any profile and see all their offers. Tech is going after some really, really highly ranked kids. Next question from Lewis or Luis. Will we land a 5-star football recruit this year? And I like this question because it's asking me if I'm going to put in a future cast for Micah Hudson. And, I talked about him earlier. I don't, I think Tech's got as good as a chance as any. And again, I'm going to go back to there's a lot of confidence in that building that they're right there and that they're going to get him. Brian Nance, it's his relationship. Uh, when Oklahoma hired Emmett Jones, there was a lot written about, oh, Emmett Jones is going to bring that relationship, and how Oklahoma is going to get Micah Hudson. I don't believe any of that uh, at all. This was always a Nance relationship. It's now a Nance and Joey McGuire relationship, and the entire staff and Juice Johnson too now, and uh, they've got a shot. I'm not going to be surprised. I also wouldn't be surprised if he does go to Texas or A&M or Ohio State, because all those programs have something to sell too. NILs, I don't know if it's a factor, but I'm sure those programs have more money to give. Just the reality. So we'll see. Should be interesting to keep up with and see where Hudson lands. So that was about it for the questions. Raider Play at 33 asks, do we finish with a better recruiting class than Texas this year? And by the rankings, no. But well, by the recruiting rankings, no. If you look at the athletic rankings and which class is faster and stronger and all those types of things, yeah. Because I mean, you look at the 23 class, Tech was number one in the country. McGuire said that several times. I've seen some of the stats; they bear that out. So better in whose eyes. Um, so yeah, I mean that was really it. Uh, Basketball game just ended about an hour ago. That was a tough game. Red Raiders stayed in there till the end, but um, if you're down on the team or whatever, just all of these prospects that I'm talking about will be on campus this Saturday. They're going to be at the basketball game. It's still important to show up and it's important for the fans to make it a good atmosphere for those kids because it all bleeds and blends in together. Um, last year's junior day was the Mississippi State basketball game. I was there. It was 2 nights before the UT game, Beard's return, and there was just a lot of juice on campus, and I assure you that did not hurt at all. So that was it. Excited to talk to some of these kids yeah, after the visit and get their reactions and see what they thought about their junior day visits and stay locked in to redraidersports.com. We'll keep the recruiting coverage coming. So thanks, guys.